Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Anime One back here with another video, and today we're gonna be discussing about what if Naruto was taken by Jiraiya for 3 years, part 10. So let's begin the video. The village was in a buzz, looking livelier than usual. Many people noted. However, there was a reason to be. Today was the day of the tuning exams. People chatted happily as they made their way towards the stadium, talking about who would win and who would place their bets on. Of course, most of the buzz was about the last Uchihas. Many people were sure that one of the last Uchihas would no doubt emerge as the winner of the tuning exams. It seems as if the name of the Uchiha automatically distinguished them as the strongest. Of course, people had a reason to believe that the last Uchihas were no other than younger brother of Itachi Uchiha and younger sister of Shisui Uchiha, the greatest prodigies to come out of the Uchiha clan. So there was a lot of hope placed on the Uchihas to perform well. Many of other people were rooting for the Hyuga genius, Neji Hyuga. The boy was hailed as the prodigy of the Hyuga clan, and there was no doubt about it that he was a very powerful member of a clan. A prodigy of a powerful clan such as the Hyuga would no doubt be a favorable contender for the title of the tuning exams. Naruto smirked as he made his way towards the stadium, ensuring that he was out of everyone's sight. It was important for him not to be seen by anyone. He wanted his entrance to be one worthy for the son of the fourth Hokage. As he made his way to the stadium, he paid close attention to what people were saying. Most of them seemed damn sure that Sasuke's and Tsuki's victory were sure, while the others were in the favor of the Neji Hyuga. Others were not even mentioned, which suited him just fine. The more he was ignored, the more pretense would be of their guilt. Still over 5 minutes before the tuning exams began, he mused as he sat down to wait. While he waited, he thought back to what he said to Neji during the preliminaries. "What are you doing, Uzumaki?" Neji said in an angry tone. "The battle is already over. It's clear as day that you have won," Naruto said as he glared at Neji. "It's my destiny to win. Seize a failure. Once a failure is always a failure," Neji said with a smirk as Naruto looked at him with a blank look. "Know this, Neji. If I fight you in the tuning exams, you will pay," Naruto said. "Neji, what happened to you that made you believe in fate more than your own abilities?" Naruto thought, with a rather confused look. Tsuki and Sasuke had arrived at the stadium. Sasuke did say that he wanted a flashy entrance, but Tsuki dragged him to the stadium and he had to agree. He didn't want to argue with an angry Tsuki, so he came. Shikamaru looked lazy as usual, but he closely observed his opponents. His opponents, the girl from the sand, looked very bit confident of her victory, but there was a small hint of apprehension in her eyes, which darted around the area anxiously. He didn't bother to look at Sino. The guy was always stoic as a stone and never gave anything away. The glasses and the high collar of his jacket only made it difficult for him to read. The puppeteer from the sand was just like his sister, but unlike her, there was no anxiousness radiating from him. The glass guy from the sand was one that bothered Shikamaru the most. Like that, then came the Uchihas. Shikamaru could tell that the two were insanely strong, and outside of Gaara and Naruto, he wouldn't want to face those two. He looked over to Neji, who was Naruto's opponent, regarded as the rookie of the year of his batch. Neji was a proclaimed genius of the Hyuga clan, who were known for their deadly and unique taijutsu. While a formidable opponent, Shikamaru doubted that he would win against Naruto, who was also the rookie of the year of his batch and was proclaimed as a genius by the Hokage. He knew that Naruto was powerful, but he had a feeling that Naruto had yet to show his full abilities. Speaking of, he looked around to find his blonde friend, but there was no sign of him. He sighed and muttered, "Troublesome." The proctor, a different one from the preliminaries, was standing in front of them in the Kage booth. There were 3 Kages currently sitting in the Kage box. The Hokage was the first one and had one bodyguard. He was Nimaishi Reido. His most distinguished feature is probably his welt-like scar on his face, running across his bridge of his nose and across the left side of his face. He has brown spiky hair, dark eyes, and wears a standard attire of a Konoha shinobi, complete with a forehead protector and a standard fly jacket. In the other seats were the Raikage and the Kazekage, aka Orochimaru. Seems like your prodigy is missing, A commented. Yujito was the strongest genin they had in Kuma, and he was expecting Secret puts all these genins to same preliminaries, the Uzumaki brat that the Hokage had expected so much from. Well, I won't worry about him. I'm sure he will arrive soon, Hiruzen said. Well, I do hope he arrives soon. I'm looking forward to seeing this Uzumaki that you're expecting a lot from, Kazekage said. I suggest you see the matches, then you'll see why I'm putting my money on him, Hiruzen said, earning a curious look from both the Kazekage and the Raikage. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chunin exams. I am Genma, the proctor of the stage. The rules are the same as the preliminaries. However, whether you win or lose doesn't matter. Your promotion will be decided on the basis of your skill, your strategy, and execution. Proctor was about to speak some more when a sound above them caused everyone, including the audience and the Kage, to look up. In a puff of smoke, there was a small object right in front of the assembled genin. It was revealed to be a kunai, but not just any kunai. It was a three-pronged kunai. There was a collective gasp among the audience when they recognized what it was. Genma had his eyes widened as he stared at the kunai, being reminded of the only person in the entire nation who used to wield those kunais. Before he could think anything else, a person appeared in a yellow flash. Pin drop silence was over the entire stadium as everyone got a good look at the person. Those blue eyes, that blonde hair, that cloak that resembled that of the fourth, the Kage box. Raikage stood up from his chair. That yellow flash, he thought he would never see that again. That brat down there was the son of Minato Namikaze. There was no doubt about it. Now he understood why Hiruzen had so much confidence in Naruto. With that jutsu, there was no telling how strong the brat actually was. Raikage turned to Hiruzen and said, "Damn, you hit him really well, didn't you?" he said. "That I did. Though the boy takes a lot after his father. He figured out his own identity when he was only 5, Hiruzen said. You sure have a lot of talented genins, specifically someone trained by Jiraiya and Senzuru must be very strong. Orochimaru, disguised as the Kazekage, said, stands, everyone's eyes at a point of bulging out of their eye sockets when they saw the kunai used by their beloved fourth Hokage being thrown in the stadium. Everyone had gasped collectively and jumped on reflex when the person who had likely thrown a kunai appeared. It couldn't be. It just couldn't be, were their thoughts of everyone. They were in disbelief, trying to deny what was right in front of their eyes, but no matter how hard they wanted to, it was simply undeniable. Spiky blonde hair with 2 jawling spiky bangs, although tied beneath the headband, and the bangs themselves tied around the middle, and the cloak, there was no mistaking just who the blonde Uzumaki resembled so much. He was almost a little copy of Minato Namikaze, with only his hairstyle distinguishing from the fourth Hokage. The Yondaime couldn't return from the dead, which only left one more conclusion, to think that the demon container was the son of the fourth. Crowd exploded in mutters, exclamations of the fourth, all mostly drowning any other verbal exclamation. It was something that no one was expecting to see. No one knew that the fourth had a legacy, and now they thought about it. It was right in front of their eyes, all the time. Guilt began to creep into every Konoha villager about how they treated the boy who was almost royalty considering who was his father. Most of the shinobi couldn't believe it. The resemblance was uncanny, all of them mentally betraying themselves for not recognizing the similarities. Naruto stood in a crouch, right hand grasping the handle of the kunai and, eyes on front, facing the genin assembled. He took in the expression of each of them. Shikamaru's narrowed gaze, Shino's raised eyebrows, Kankuro's frown, Temari's appreciative but slightly guarded gaze, Neji's and Sasuke's narrowed eyes but otherwise neutral faces, Yudito and Kari with wide eyes, and Kuroshuchi with a look of disbelief. But what put him on guard was Gaara. Then he looked at Suki, who was looking at him with a sort of hurt expression. He knew why. She was probably thinking that he didn't trust her enough to tell her the truth. He would talk to her later about that. Then he looked at Gaara again, pulling out the locked kunai. With a slight jerk, he stood up, maintaining eye contact with Gaara's. Gaara's mouth almost twisted into a small maniac smile, but it was so quick that Naruto would have missed it if he were not looking at it. He stood up to his full height, towering full 4 inches above him. Without breaking eye contact, both of them seemed to size up each other. It was as if, along with them, their beasts were also looking at each other through their eyes. Uzumaki, Gaara whispered, though it was perfectly conveyed his bloodlust. Naruto did not change his expression, promoting Gaara to continue. Mother cries for your blood. Naruto merely lifted up an eyebrow and said, he is going to have to wait for it. He then proceeded to stand next to Shikamaru, who turned an annoyed expression to him. You're a troublesome guy. Have I ever told you that? Shikamaru said. Naruto smirked, then looked at Suki. I'll tell you later, he said, as she nodded. He must have some reason why he didn't tell her. She wouldn't go to conclusions. Genma gazed at Naruto for a moment, before turning his gaze and calling out. Just to be clear, I'll say it one more time. The same rules apply as the last time. Opponents will continue to fight until one is either knocked out or unable to continue. I also reserve the right to stop the match if I see fit. With that said, the contestants of the first match will step forward and the others will proceed to the contestant stand and wait for their matches. Kamaru patted Naruto on the shoulders and walked off to his seat with the rest of the rookies. While the field cleared, it was just Neji and Naruto and Genma, who stood between the two fighters as the two sized each other up. Give up, Uzumaki. Fate has already decided for me to be the winners of today's match. Neji broke the silence, informing Naruto as if what he has said was a fact, nothing more. Naruto smirked, both the squeals from the female audience and what he was about to say at him, and replied, You think so, but I think if I use my sword, there will be absolutely no chance of winning, so I won't use it, just to make things even. Neji's eyes hardened. Everything in life is set by fate, as is your defeat. But I can see that you do not understand fate. Slipping into his stance, he continued. Allow me to explain by demonstrating it to you. Genma knew an opportunity when he saw it. He swung his hand downwards in a slashing motion. Begin! Jumping back, Naruto made 8 shadow clones. Go, he commanded, as all of them moved to engage. Neji did not seem alarmed at all. He calmly engaged the clones with controlled expertise, slowly but surely dispatching all of them. Naruto observed that Neji's eyes were never once moved from their position, always gazing forward. As the last clone was finished off, Neji was surprised a bit that another batch was already moving in to engage him, but no matter, they would not win. They had already decided that he would be the victor of this match. There, Naruto mentally exclaimed as Neji finished off fourth batch of shadow clones. He waited for Neji to get his breath back as he prepared himself. Setting into his stance, he found out all he needed to finish this match on his terms. There's a blind spot, huh? I better keep it a secret and strike him with a surprise attack. Naruto thought the time had come to show the fruits of his training. Almost everyone, including most of the jonin in the stands, was perplexed as one moment Naruto was standing 10 feet away and the next moment a foot was barely blocked by Neji. People thought it was the Hiraishi, however, when Neji was sent skidding backwards from the force of the kick, they realized that Naruto had moved so fast that the momentum had augmented the force behind the kick, causing Neji to slide backwards, but Naruto had only started. What? Neji had barely begun to think when Naruto attacked again. He was shocked at how fast and ruthless he was being forced onto on the defensive. As he tried to block the attacks, Neji had thought that Naruto's fighting style was more focused on strength of the attacks rather than speed. Promptly proved when he failed to hide his winces when he felt the force behind each of the attacks. He moved by instinct as he attempted to redirect the force behind Naruto's attack. The speed behind his attacks was nothing to scoff at as well. While the strikes had an impressive force behind them, they seemed to be augmented. The sheer speed that Naruto was using to strike. The son of the fourth, indeed. Only years of training in martial arts of his family and developing his instinct allowed him to dodge his attacks. Even then, he was dodging and blocking by instincts only. That wasn't the only problem. His hands were feeling numb from every attack that he blocked. Neji hit his wins as he kept his gaze on Naruto. Slowly standing up, he evaluated whatever he had experienced so far. There's no doubt that he's physically strong, almost at the same level as Lee. I'm willing to bet that he could withstand the amount of force that he dishes in his attack himself as well. And he's fast, unbelievably so. Nothing else would be expected of the son of the fastest shinobi to ever live. After all, I never knew that it was possible to have such impossibly fast reflexes. Hyuga thought. I think I assessed enough of his taijutsu and it would be a wise decision to stay away from him. If I'm dominating the battle right now, I'm sure even if I slip up a little bit, he'll block all my chakra points. Naruto thought as he jumped back. Shadow Clone Jutsu, he said, as 10 clones appeared and surrounded Neji and went through hand signs. Water style, water bullets, all of them said. Neji smirked and took a stance. 8 trigrams, 64 palms, Neji said as he tried to strike all the water bullets, but few water bullets hit him. The shadow clones ran towards Neji as Neji took a stance. 8 trigrams, 64 palms, he said as he dispelled all the shadow clones and smirked. Give up, Uzumaki. You can't defy fate, Neji said as Naruto had a blank look. Wind style. Great breakthrough, Naruto said as Neji dodged the attack and rushed towards Naruto. Naruto smirked. This was exactly what he was looking for. Lightning style. Thunderball blast, Naruto said as he launched a huge ball of electricity towards Neji. Neji couldn't dodge it. He was too close to Naruto. Having no time to jump again, he was forced to resort to his defense. Rotation. Neji reached his maximum rotation speed just as the electricity ball reached him. The electricity ball crashed into the spinning dome of chakra, taking only 5 seconds to disperse, which was 4 seconds too late for Neji. Naruto made a sound of mock realization. Oh, I enforced it with chakra. It's really not that difficult. Then he smirked in a way that sent shivers down Neji's spine. I've somewhat heard about your defensive technique, the ultimate defense of the Hyuga, eh? Neji said nothing, which was more than enough of an answer. Naruto had enough. He rushed towards Neji, who was smirking. You are a fool. You know you have no chance when it comes to close range combat, he said, but his eyes widened when Naruto vanished in a yellow flash and appeared behind him. Neji had no time before he could do anything. He was sent flying with a kick to the stomach. Then, in another yellow flash, Naruto was gone again. Neji Reese received a lightning chakra enhanced fist to his face. Then finally, Naruto kicked him down to the ground. Kage Box. I really have no words to describe how impressive that genin of yours is, Hokage Dono. To learn and master the Yondame's most feared technique at such a young age is no small feat, Kazekage complimented. Hiruzen smirked and nodded. That was a masterful use of the Hiraishin. Naruto must have marked Neji at a very first opportunity. Also, to be capable of using three elemental natures in such a young age, Raikage complimented. Hiruzen accepted the compliments on behalf of Naruto with a nod and a smirk. At the stance, all the Jonins were looking in awe. In just 1 second, Neji was down, and he was barely able to walk. Only Kakashi and Guy were able to see what happened. What all other people saw was the yellow flash, and Neji was on his knees. Neji breathed heavily as he gazed at Naruto. He was down to just a quarter of his chakra reserves, and he was on his knees, while Naruto had yet to show any signs of fatigue. What he didn't know that Naruto's chakra reserves were so much larger than he had used only a small drop of his entirety of it. How did you? Neji asked. How did I almost defeat you in a single second? Naruto said, reaching behind him and pulled out a Hiraishin kunai, dangling it in his index finger. I'm sure you know what this is. He looked around, discreetly seeing that he captured the attention of the entire audience. This is the kunai that was once used by my father, Minato Namikaze. Mutters rose in the crowd in response to the confirmation of their thoughts from before, but quickly silenced when Naruto continued. The Hiraishin no Jutsu is a space-time technique, a combination of ninjutsu and fuinjutsu. Basically, this is the formula here. He showed him the imprinted formula. Acts as a beacon for me. Where this formula is, I can teleport there without any problem. That means the reason I was able to get in there is that you already have been marked. Neji had never widened his eyes this much in his entire life. He desperately searched for the place where Naruto had placed the formula and found it beneath his forearm. Never before had he been so outclassed in a fight. How had he failed to notice such a simple thing? Naruto spun a kunai, catching it in the reverse hold. The look on his face was almost as if in a set stone. It was the same look of the yellow flash gave to his enemies before killing them. I would have ended the fight the moment we engaged in taijutsu. In other words, if you would have been my enemy and not a comrade, you were dead the moment I put this mark on you. Our brief taijutsu battle. That was the whole reason why I got into a taijutsu battle with you in the first place. It was to mark you. Silence rang in the entire stadium as the cold truth of the words hit each person. It was now that they realized how truly dangerous the lethal of the Yondame's use of the jutsu was. It was basically as if you were being marked by death. If you had this mark, there was no escape for you. Then why didn't you? Neji asked. Naruto raised an eyebrow and put the kunai back in his pouch. Tell me something, Neji. Why do you believe in fate so much? What gives you the excuse to claim that everything is fated to be? Neji looked surprised for a moment, but then his eyes hardened. He reached for his headband and removed it. Because of this, he said, pointing at a green seal on his forehead. It was a cross in the middle, with hooks on each other sides of the cross. Kate's seal is given to the branch house members of the Yuga clan by the main house members. While it may seem to the both houses are family, it's a lie. The cold reality is that the branch member only act as servant to the main house, he explained. Naruto didn't attack him when Neji closed his eyes, instead of opting to hear his story out. Seal is given to the branch house members to protect our prized bloodline from falling into our enemies' hands. After the death of the Hyuga member, the seals activates and seals the ability of the Byakugan. By that, I mean the seal binds us until death, a destiny from which we cannot escape. Neji told him about the Hyuga incident, what happened years ago. How Hinata was almost kidnapped by the ambassador from Kumo. How the village had demanded the death of Hiyashi Hyuga as compensation. How his father's life was offered instead. You speak, that is fate, that the branch family will always remain bound, yet you contradict your self-belief when you try to kill Hinata in the preliminaries. You try to divert from your own predestined path, all because of this, because you hold a grudge against the main family. Neji finally lost control of himself. My father was taken away from me because of Hiyashi-sama couldn't control the responsibility taken for his actions. My father has to give his own life just so that Hiyashi-sama could keep on living, damn it. Naruto said nothing for a while. Neji thought that he had got his words through the blonde, but he was well shocked when Naruto's next word came out. I already planned on winning today, but I'll say it just for you. I won't be losing to a coward who has been blaming all his problems on such nonsense as fate. Someone as ignorant as you is no position of lecturing me. Neji sought back. You will never understand what it means to be a burden with a symbol that you can never get rid of. There was pin drop silence in the whole stadium. The whole audience was silent. The whole audience felt the impact of those words. Neji couldn't have been more wrong. The senior shinobi feared that Naruto would lose it, but even the Hokage, but thankfully Naruto kept a tight lid on his emotions. It wouldn't do losing it in front of an entire crowd. Naruto sighed, whispering, "You're wrong, I know how exactly it feels. But enough talk," he finished in a strong voice. He made a ram seal, and Neji felt that it was better to be cautious rather than just wait and see what happens. Immediately, he jumped back, or tried to anyway. It was as if he was paralyzed, but it felt like his body was under 100 kgs. Neji had to struggle to move his arms. It was as if he was stuck in clay. What the hell is this? Naruto calmly walked forward now that he has successfully activated his seal. A paralysis seal. Fuinjutsu is a rather versatile art of a shinobi. Won't you agree, Neji? Kage box. Your genin is just full of surprises, Hokage Dono. To make use of seals so efficiently in combat with just his chakra, it's almost as if he's already an expert. Not many choose to study that particular art, the Raikage said. Hiruzen chuckled and replied, Naruto is more than just skilled in Fuinjutsu. He is perhaps the most skilled person I've ever seen. Not surprising if you're considering who his father was. The Raikage nodded in approval. He definitely qualifies for the Chunin. Think he had managed to put a Hiraishin and a resistance seal on his opponent. He had been several steps ahead of his opponents right from the beginning of the match. And I didn't know Naruto could use Fuinjutsu like that, Ino exclaimed. Kakashi smiled. Minato-sensei would be so proud, Naruto. Naruto is an expert in them, you know, he said with a nice smile. That's it, Naruto, kick that bastard's ass, Kiba shouted. Tenten was dumbstruck. Just how many steps ahead was Naruto of her teammates? Senzuru, who was in the Kage boots, had a proud look on his face. He might not have taught Naruto on his sealing jutsu, but still, Naruto was a student. Arena. Neji couldn't move and Naruto was in front of him, his hands crackling with lightning. This is it. You lose, Neji. With that, Naruto put his hand on Neji's shoulder. The lightning chakra passed through his body as Neji screamed in pain. Neji was on his back. He had taken too many hits, and that last attack was the final blow. He couldn't even move his body. It was not due to the paralysis seal, but it was just his body was too damaged. All he could do was glare at the blonde, who humiliated him. I told you, Naruto said softly. Fate is a fragile concept. Our destiny is never set in stone. Neji, I'm not strong because I was fated to be. I chose to work hard to reach where I am right now. Hinata calls you her big brother, doesn't she? You should really should stop treating her the way you do. She only wants to unite the branch family with the main family. She looks up to you as her big brother. It's only fitting that you treat her like your sister. It's time you stepped up and stopped using the fate as an excuse. Then removed the paralysis seal from Neji. You stood up and started to walk away, letting the medics carry the injured Hyuga away. He smiled as he heard a soft voice. Maybe you're right. Perhaps there was some hope after all. Enma declared loudly, the winner is Uzumaki Naruto. As soon as he finished, the crowd started cheering for the boy. Watching him successfully use the trademark jutsu of the fourth was enough of evidence for them that he was indeed the legacy of the fourth Hokage. Naruto looked at the crowd in surprise. Namikaze! Namikaze! That's all what he heard. Naruto was hearing. The chant resonated around the entire stadium, and within seconds, the entire stadium was chanting it as well. Naruto, for his part, smiled softly. The sight of everyone cheering for him, even if it was a name that he really didn't use, brought a lump to his throat. Bowing to the crowd, he turned away and headed to the Kenyan stands. He received many good-natured pats on his back and almost shook everyone's hand on the way. The words were, "Great job! Congratulations!" rang frequently in his ears. He just accepted them all with a smile and continued on his way. When he reached the stands, he took in the reaction. First, there was Sasuke, who was glaring at him with anger and jealousy. Naruto just ignored him. Sasuke had to get over the fact that being an Uchiha doesn't make him the strongest. Then he walked bypassed Temari and Kongro, who were sweating. He smirked and kept walking. I was staring at him, arms crossed. His expression gave nothing away, but his body twitched. Every now and then, Naruto spotted the croak on his gourd, shaking as well, as if the sand was struggling to come out of it. He didn't want to wait to see if it would actually come out. Sino gave him a nod of respect, acknowledging his strength. "Good job, Naruto," Remy clan member said. Naruto nodded back. "Thanks." Naruto didn't need to guess the response of Shikamaru. "Troublesome." The shadow user sighed. "Just had to go and cause ruckus, didn't you?" Naruto smirked, then he looked at Yujito and Karui. Yujito looked nervous since her next match after Karui was gonna be with the blonde, and Karui had a pissed off look on her face. She didn't want to admit it that Naruto would beat her. Kage boots. "I suggest we promote Uzumaki to Jonin," Raikage said. He was truly impressed at such a young boy that had mastered his father's jutsu, and his skills with sealing were off the charts. And from what the boy said, he was a ninjutsu user. That meant the boy hadn't shown his full capabilities. "I agree," the Kazekage said as Hiruzen nodded. In the stands, I never knew," Ino whispered. She could not believe that she missed such a big fact. He was supposed to be from a clan that were masters of the mind, and yet she couldn't see such an obvious resemblance. She, although be ashamed of herself, if not for her age, Naruto and Namikaze Minato could be the clones of each other. Blonde hair of almost identical shade aroused her eyes that were unique to them. It could not be more obvious than that. Sakura's jaw almost in the ground. She couldn't believe she never saw the resemblance as well. It was so obvious. And come to think of it, she treated him like crap, the son of the hero who saved the village from the QB. Treated like crap, not just by her, but the whole village, including her mother. Tension was shaking her head in disbelief. She couldn't believe that Naruto had beaten her teammate, who she believed to be the strongest genin in Konoha, but then again, he had the Yandame's jutsu on his side. Naruto walked towards Suki, who was looking at him in awe. Now, Suki, I know that I'm good looking, but don't stare at me like that, Naruto said with a smile as Suki's entire face turned red as he turned away. Hey Suki, you know the reason I didn't tell you that I would have told you why the villagers hated me, Naruto said as Suki looked at him. What do you mean? She said. At the night of the Nine Tails attack, my father didn't kill the Nine Tails. He simply couldn't. The beaches are completely made up of chakra and killing them is not possible, Naruto said as Suki's eyes widened in realization. Does that mean? She said. Naruto nodded. That sealed the Nine Tails inside of me, sacrificing his own life in process. I am the Jinchuriki of the QB. I thought if I told you. Naruto couldn't continue as Suki hugged him. I would never hate you. I couldn't care if you were the Nine Tails or not, she said, as Naruto was a little shocked by the sudden embrace, but he hugged her back. Thank you, Suki. The Jonin smiled at the scene. Kakashi was giggling. Seeing the scene, all the girls were jealous of Suki. Naruto already had a fan club, but now that his heritage was revealed, oh boy, he didn't want to think about it. When the proctor announced the next match, both broke the hug and smiled at each other. Genma announced, the next match is between Shino Aburame and Sabaku no Kankuro. Before he could say anything more, he was interrupted. Proctor, I forfeit. Kankuro's yell, followed by a confused look from Genma and a roar of disapproval from the crowd. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Kankuro and Tamari. Naruto then turned back to the arena. Back in the arena, Genma was announcing. Then, by default, the winner of the match is Shino Aburame. Thus, we can progress into the next phase of the match. The next match is Kurosuchi versus Suki Uchiha. Both Kurosuchi and Suki came down to the arena. Then, shall we begin the match? Hajime, the earth spikes, Kurosuchi called out as a massive spike of earth shot out from the ground towards Suki. Suki jumped back 10 meters and missed the spike as she unseated her sword and activated her Sharingan. She had picked up Kenjutsu this month and Kakashi was more than happy to teach her. Kurosuchi went forward with a kunai in her hand and began swiping at Suki, who easily defended with her sword. Sparks flew from the kunai and the blade when they connected with one another. Kurosuchi used her slim body and used her flexibility to perform a couple of well-allied and well-balanced moves as she tried to Suki's wild spots. One of her kunai went for the jugular, showing Suki how serious she was. She moved her head back and felt the graze of the tip of the kunai in her throat. In response, she swept her legs with a vicious kick, but Kurosuchi jumped away in the air before she unleashed a kick of her own. Suki caught the kick and threw Kurosuchi over her shoulder, but she easily rolled with the throw. Earth style, mud shot, she said, as the globs of mud shot from her mouth and went rocketing towards Suki. Fire style, strolling fire, Suki said as she took a deep breath and forced a large swirl of fire to come out of her mouth. A fire rushed towards and burned the Motsats back on the field. Suki defended from a few quick strikes from the Kurosuchi, though Suki was too fast and managed to block each strike and counter with her own, though Kurosuchi would block and do the same. Eventually, Kurosuchi's kuna and Suki's sword locked onto each other and began fighting for dominance. when they entered a stalemate. Suki used her superior physical strength and pushed Kurosuchi back and sent her flying back a couple of meters, stared at each other before they began to make a set of hand signs, both similar speeds and similar actions of movements. Fire style, fireball jutsu, Suki said. Water style, water ball bullets, Kurosuchi said. Water and fireballs rushed towards the targets at great speed but collided with one another, creating a small vial of steam to begin appear and engulf the lower field, making it a little difficult for some to see what was happening. Neither of them stopped their attack as fire and water rained down, though on the field, trying to bypass the other but neither having any success. She is pretty good, Suki thought. It's to be expected that one of the last Uchihas would be this skilled, Kurosuchi thought in return. Deciding to take it up a notch, Kurosuchi smiled to herself before she jumped onto the high wall looking down at Suki, who stared up at her, as did the others in the crowd who was watching. She made a few hand seals before shouted, "Lava style, lava rain," she called out as she took a deep breath and shot out large globs of lava from her mouth, high into the air, and watched as they began to separate, form large globs into small and smaller pieces until it was just like bits of hail. Suki was successful in dodging all the lava balls that fell from the sky, thanks to her Sharingan stance. Lava style. How can she use lava style? I thought only the Mist Village had that Kekigenkai, Sakura said. There was a clan that specialized and could use the lava style bloodline long ago, but they got split and separated throughout the years, similar to that of Uzumaki. My guess is that someone from her girl's family carried out the lava style bloodline and it was passed down to her, Naruto said. On the field, Suki looked at her in surprise. Lava, huh? This takes things to a whole new level. I have to be more careful around her, and I can't let that lava touch me, Suki thought. You look a little out of it. I hope that little treat I just gave you did not burn you too badly, Kurosuchi said as he grinned at her as Suki looked up at her. Not at all. I was a little surprised. This does not change the fact that I will still kick your ass, Suki said, making Kurosuchi glare down at her. We will see who will be the one kicking their ass, she said as he went through another set of hand signs. Lava style, lava torrent. This time, a large stream of lava soared from her mouth and rushed towards her. Suki quickly saw the danger and immediately jumped as far away as she could from the harm's way. However, she noticed that when the lava hit the ground, it began to spread across the floor and slowly began to cover the ground. Not good. I have to end this soon, Suki thought, as the Sharingan began to spin. I won't use the Raikiri unless I'm forced to, but Chidori on the other hand. Suki jumped up and applied chakra to stick on the wall and went through hand signs. Lightning started cackling around her right hand as she held her right hand with her left hand. Lightning started to make a sound as Suki ran down the wall, tearing the wall in the process. Kurosuchi went through hand signs. Earth style, mud bullets, she said as he sent multiple bullets towards Suki, who dodged all of them, still running towards her. Damn it, if I get hit by the jutsu, I'm done for, Kurosuchi thought as he went through hand signs. Lava style, lava bullets, she said, but at the same time when that happened, Suki kept dodging all of them until she was 1 foot away from Kurosuchi. Chidori, Suki said as he stabbed Kurosuchi on the shoulder. Ah! Kurosuchi yelled in pain as she fell to her knees and felt unconscious. Proctor jumped down and saw Kurosuchi's unconscious body. Winner of the match, Suki Uchiha, the proctor said as the crowd began to cheer. Suki walked up to the stands to see Naruto smiling and Sasuke had a small smirk. Ino and Sakura were telling her how cool she was. I wonder she knows about the invasion, Naruto thought. Why don't you ask your Vixen? Kurama said. both half serious and half innocently. Naruto absently nodded until he registered what Kurama said. What do you mean by that? Suki isn't my vixen, he corrected him and spluttered. What the hell was the fox thinking? Kurama laughed. I am the only being in this world, Naruto, who you can't fool. I've seen the way you look at her. You just want to grab her and... Shut up, Naruto shouted. The being that was sealed inside of him, his face deep shade of red. He shook his head violently to shake off all the trains of thought Kurama had started. He couldn't imagine himself pinning her to the wall, and he banged his head on the floor to clear it. Why would you suggest it? These thoughts are hard to get rid of, you know. Suki saw Naruto was a bit red and banging his head on the wall. She walked up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. Hey Naruto, you okay? She said as Naruto looked at her. He hid his blush and nodded and grabbed her hand and pointed at the necklace. If you are troubled, just apply that chakra to that necklace and I'll be there in a flash, Naruto said. Suki was confused, but she nodded. The next match is Shikamaru Nara versus Sabuku no Tamari. Shikamaru had a panicked look on his face. Oi, why is it always my match that gets jumped up? He began to back away from the railing. I'm forfeiting as well. I don't care what my troublesome mom says or what she does to me. I'm not. His rant was cut off when a hand was placed on his shoulder. He turned to face Naruto with a innocent look on his face. What are you? Before he could complete, it's okay, Shika, Naruto said with a sympathetic look. Shikamaru gave him a suspicious look, so Naruto did his best not to smile. But there's one problem. If possible, Shikamaru narrowed his eyes even further. What? You can forfeit. The next moment, he was standing in front of a smirking Proctor and Tamari. He blinked once, trying to figure out what the hell just happened and how did he get down here. He turned around and saw the complete look of innocence on Naruto's face. He gave him a look of bloody murder at the blonde he called his best friend. He had the nerve to use the Flying Thunder God to send him to the arena. He turned around and grumbled. At least he didn't have to walk the distance from the waiting arena to the center arena. This match goes the same as canon, so I hope we don't have to talk about it. Genma just snorted and announced, winner of the match, Sabuku no Tamari. Tamari released his hold on Tamari, who had just managed to catch herself. She stared at the retreating back of the Genin and managed to start her out. Why? Kamaru turned around and answered, shrugging in a way that really made him look like a guy who doesn't want to be bothered by anything. It makes no sense to succumb to a chakra exhaustion just for this when I might need my energy later, Shikamaru said. Next match, Sasuke Uchiha versus Gaara of the Sand. Same as canon, but Sasuke is much faster and stronger. Let's skip to the part where the invasion begins. What's this? Sakura asked as she watched the feathers starting to fall from the sky. Genjutsu, she said, right before breaking the illusion. Genjutsu, Suki wondered as she also broke the illusion. We are being invaded by the sand and the sound, Kakashi explained as fought against a couple of sand shinobi. What? Sakura yelled. But sand is our ally, she stated. They are no longer our allies. We knew about this invasion since the end of the second phase of the Chunin exams, so we were prepared, Kakashi said, trying to ease the worries of the fresh Genins. Suki and Sakura, I have a mission for you. Assemble a team and go after Sasuke. He can't handle Gaara by himself. But you can't take Naruto. We need him here and somewhere else, Kakashi said as they both nodded. The team is same. Instead of Naruto, Suki is there. Naruto looked around. He had a very important role in this invasion. He had the Hiraishi mark on various places and he will use it wisely. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Naruto said, as 50 shadow clones appeared. You know what to do, boys, Naruto said, as the clones nodded and disappeared in a yellow flash. to evacuate all the civilians. Then Chunins appeared in front of Naruto, as Naruto had a calm expression on his face as he unseated Enma. "What are you waiting for? An invitation from Grandma? Come." All the Chunin rushed towards Naruto, but they didn't notice that Naruto had these three-pronged kunai all over the stadium in a yellow flash. All Chunin were dead. Blood was on Naruto's sword. "I have to do this," Naruto thought, as he created 20 shadow clones. He was going to do the same thing that his father did, even if he felt bad for these people. They were his enemies, and he would not show them any mercy. "Flying Raijin level 2, Naruto said as all the clones disappeared. From a far distance, you could see the yellow flashes going around the stadium. Kage boots. Susan was in his battle gear, fighting Orochimaru. The Raikage was outside the barrier, looking at the fight. "Raikage-sama, what do we do?" C asked. His aide looked at him. "Help all the civilians. I won't just sit and watch as children and innocent people die," A said, as they all head up to help the civilians. "Where's Sasuke and the others?" Sasuke had his curse seal activated, and Suki was panting as they were fighting Gaara, who was half transformed. Well, they had gotten pretty good hits on him, but none of them could keep him down. Only time they were able to injure him was when Sasuke caught him off guard with his Raikiri, and Gaara was busy fighting Suki. Sasuke rushed towards Gaara with one last Raikiri, but before Sasuke could reach Gaara, he was grabbed by a huge hand made of sand. "Sasuke," Suki said as he made a Raikiri and rushed towards Sasuke, who was trapped and sliced the arm in half. Then she was sent flying in the air by a kick to the stomach by Gaara. "Die," Gaara said as he jumped towards Suki to kill her. "I can't dodge, I'm in midair. I only have one option," she thought as he grabbed her necklace and sent chakra to it. Just before Gaara could touch Suki, she was gone in a yellow flash. Naruto landed on a tree carrying Suki bridal style. "Naruto," Suki said weakly as Naruto looked at her. "Don't worry, I'll handle the rest. You just take Sasuke and run." Suki widened her eyes at the statement. "No, absolutely not." Naruto put her down and glared at Gaara. "Suki, you have to understand. If you stay here, you'll only get in my way," Naruto said, as Suki put her head down and nodded. She put Sasuke's arms around her shoulder and jumped away, looking back at him one last time. "Don't you die, Naruto," she thought as tears came out of her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. Naruto and Gaara were glaring at each other. Mother will finally have her blood, Uzumaki," Gaara said, but Naruto looked at him with an emotionless face and unseated Enma. "We will see about that, Gaara," Naruto said as a purple aura surrounded his body along with Enma.